I remember a few years ago I expressed some displeasure over the way in which activism has caused shoddy research. Many sociological academic disciplines, in particular, have been converted into activist mills that prioritize a certain conclusion over a genuine desire to properly understand how the world works around us. I guess to get even more specific, I'm referring to the departments that specialize in what has been known as grievance studies. Fields like gender studies, for example, are largely driven by a particular ideology that causes many of its participants to engage in groupthink, where they're all expected to reach a certain conclusion and avoid disconfirming evidence like the plague. This is a problem that generally occurs when you mix activism with academia. When you're so passionate about a particular issue, it can force you to adopt every bias imaginable in support of said cause. For example, if you're an activist that is focused on healing the racial divide that you see within your community or country, then it's very easy to ultimately believe that this is the most pressing issue that we have to deal with. Similarly, if all you do is constantly critique and lambast the sociology fields that I was referring to earlier, then it's very easy to become tunnel visioned and believe that this is actually the most pressing issue we need to address, and that this somehow justifies us electing someone who is clearly unfit to become president of the United States. Now, I don't think it's a bad thing to dedicate the vast majority of your mental bandwidth, if not all of it, to a particular issue. After all, when a scientist chooses to study quantum mechanics for the majority of his academic career, we don't express such concerns. We simply acknowledge that he's specializing in quantum mechanics and he can be confidently viewed as an expert in the field, even if his expert opinion often is at odds with the opinions of other experts in his field. This is the whole process of peer review research. Problems usually arise, however, when the topic at hand involves value judgments and beliefs about the way the world ought to be. I don't want to get too deep into the weeds here because already what I said can open up long-winded discussions about biases and motivated reasoning, and I'm sure the post-structuralists are going to come in and get mad at me about this, but you guys hopefully understand what I'm trying to get at here. It's a problem when you're hyper-fixated on a particular issue that it causes you to downplay other issues going on in society, or you begin to lose the plot and overthink everything. There is no better example of this happening on a grand scale than the culture war. The culture war has been the epicenter for an impressive amount of moral perversion for quite some time now. In 2015-2016, I would have argued that the side that has been deemed woke is so tunnel visioned on the topic of bigotry that everywhere they look, they see bigotry, and it has caused them to view this as the North Star of everything that we care about. This is the most pressing issue to deal with, not climate change or political instability. However, as of the last couple of years, I would argue that the situation has flipped, and the anti-wokes are so tunnel visioned on combating the wokes that they believe nothing else matters, and that this is the hill to die on, even if it means voting back in one of the most anti-American presidents we've ever had. Someone who tried to take away American citizens' constitutional right to elect their leader via the fake elector plot. As the years have gone by, I have witnessed the anti-wokes commit the same sins that they have accused the wokes of committing. Refusal to call out the crazies on their side, refusal to adequately listen to and understand the oppositional's viewpoints, refusal to engage in civil dialogue, and a refusal to acknowledge simple, basic facts. Many of the anti-wokes that I have spoken with acknowledge that there are some insane people on their side. They'll say something like, yeah, sure, people such as Candace Owens, Charlie Kirk, and James Lindsay are not exactly reliable arbiters of truth, but at least they're helping us fight the woke. My response was fairly predictable. You can do two things at once. You can criticize the crazy aspects of the other side while also criticizing the crazy aspects of your side, especially since I actually think your side is much worse at this point. It's this level of carelessness that has caused us to be more divided than ever. As cliche as it sounds, it's not us versus them, it's just us versus us. At the end of the day, we're all cohabitating the same planet or the same country. Just because I have serious concerns about the sociology departments on college campuses doesn't mean I'm going to force myself to side with the guy who doesn't understand what a tariff is or who sits down and has a nice meal with Nick Fuentes. We can criticize two things at once. We must criticize two things at once if we wish to continue this experiment. So ultimately, that's the thesis of this video. We have to be able to focus on two things at once. Or if you just want to focus on one thing predominantly, at least you have to make sure that you don't lose the plot to the point where you think that what you're dealing with is more important than what everybody else is dealing with. There are many, many, many issues that are currently going on in the world, in the country, And so if we want to move forward and we want to make sure that we're still here 100 years down the line in a better situation than we are now, we have to make sure that we actually recognize that even though this is probably the most important issue for me, it's not necessarily the most important issue for everybody else or for the country or for the world, right? You can complain and criticize the annoying people on college campuses who have pronouns in their bio, who will call you a racist or a bigot for any little tiny thing that you do. We can criticize those people, and I do think that they should be criticized. However, while we are criticizing them, we must also acknowledge and recognize that there are probably more important issues going on in the world. Like, hey, yeah, sure, these people are annoying and whatever, that they call everything racist and everything a bigot, but we actually have U.S. representatives wanting to ban gay marriage. We actually have U.S. representatives engaging in some of the most crazy conspiratorial thinking imaginable. We have a president who condones all of this, who sides with them, who just completely turned the Republican Party into the party of Trump and is now espousing the craziest shit imaginable. You can criticize him while also criticizing the crazy woke people. But anyways, that's pretty much the extent of this video. I apologize if it's too short or whatever, and or if it didn't really go in depth into a particular issue and it's just kind of like a surface level analysis. But it's just something that I wanted to get off my chest. Anyways, thank you guys for watching, listening. Let me hear what your thoughts are. If you hate me, if you hate what I have to say vociferously, please put it in the comment section so I can respond to it, if not in a comment or in a future video, in which I like the idea of responding to comments. I like that idea because a lot of the times I'll see comments that I disagree with, but it's not really addressed, but it has a lot of likes in it. So most people who hop onto the video will probably read that comment and be swayed by it a little bit. And so I like the idea of the creator looking at those comments and responding to it, not just because he thinks the comments are wrong necessarily, but I think it also adds a pretty good level of engagement with the community and makes it come across as more of a conversation rather than one person just kind of espousing what his views are to whoever's listening or watching. But anyways, I hope everyone has a great day. I hope everyone has a wonderful 2025, and I hope everyone had a great holiday season, and I'll see you next time.